Welcome back to this series we started on SAP S for HANA. So, in this session, we'll look into how SAP S for HANA has evolved. So, basically, if you look at this next generation ERP system which SAP is offering, is at the heart of SAP strategy to create an intelligent, sustainable enterprise. So, here they'll mention that as a cloud ERP. We'll come to that. We'll come to that discussion in the coming sessions. Why they use the word cloud and why they're focusing on the cloud ERP. When you understand SAP's future strategy, it will be clear to you. So what is the cloud ERP they are referring to? So it's basically the same product SAP S for HANA only, which they're offering as a cloud solution. But as I mentioned that SAP S for HANA is at the heart of SAP strategy to create an intelligent, sustainable enterprise. So we say that's a core application they're offering. So actually the goal of SAP strategy is to achieve an intelligent, sustainable enterprise. So meaning of that is they want to make every company as an intelligent as well as a sustainable company. So for that, whatever the solutions required, all the solutions SAP is offering. You name it, whether they are end-to-end business processes, and that too those business processes which are AI powered, which they call them as business AI services, or you can also call them as AI agents. And then to execute those business processes, what are the applications required? And then at the core of this for data management and analytics, whatever the solutions they required, which they'll offer you in the form of business data cloud. And to manage all these applications, the technology platform, what they're offering like BTP, which will allow you to perform so many different activities. You name it like an application development, automations, data management, analytics, integrations, AI implementations. So SAP's ultimate goal is providing all these solutions. They want to make every company as an intelligence as well as sustainable enterprise. Well, an intelligent, sustainable enterprise is the one which consistently applies advanced technologies and best practices with some integrated business processes. So SAP can help the customers to build that intelligent, sustainable enterprise by allowing them to use powerful technologies to create a consistent technology layer using something like BTP and infusing that AI and machine learning into the business processes. So you can, as a customer, you can also use the tools to understand what is happening across your business and why it's happening. So that kind of analysis you can do. So at the core of all this, you have this ERP solution, which SAP is offering to you, which is what is SAP S for HANA. So if you see the historical timeline of SAP ERP, we have to go back to back in 1970s, 79 or early 80s. There is a long history of SAP ERP solutions. Uh, you know, it's evolved a lot in the last almost, we can say, 3 decades. So originally they started with that SAP ERP, which was called as R2, which is platform dependent product, which is based on mainframe. And then early 90s, they have introduced the classic 3-tier client server architecture application, which they named it as R3. So, which is based on Windows or Unix, or even it supports different databases as we know. So customers having that flexibility, like if a customer want to implement that with A database like Oracle or SQL Server or DB2, they have the flexibility to choose the database. So which later on it's evolved into something like a business suite system. And eventually they started calling it as ECC, the ERP core component. So which most of the people generally refer to that as the ERP solution. So in 2010, SAP has introduced their in-memory database platform called HANA. So most of you people know that. I mean, earlier to that, they used to offer this ERP application or other SAP applications, the business suite solutions they were offering with only third-party databases like Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, traditional disk-based databases. But once SAP came up with HANA database in 2010, they started offering different solutions with that HANA database. Initially their focus was on analytics. In fact, that's the reason why they named it as High Performance Analytics Appliance, HANA. So they've offered it as a data mart, and then they started using it as an accelerator to improve the performance in profitability analysis. And then the first application they've introduced on HANA was BW. So right from BW 7.3 SP5 onwards, they've introduced it on HANA. So they started giving compatibility for HANA database also. Means those customers at the time, they have that flexibility. Either they can go with BW with third-party databases like Oracle, SQL Server like that, or they can opt for the same BW product with HANA database. So the initial stages when SAP introduced HANA, they provided only the analytical solutions, but it doesn't mean that HANA is only restricted for analytical solutions. They started offering their transactional applications. This ERP, they started offering on HANA at the end of 2012 and beginning of 2013. So the customers also started having the flexibility. So now the SAP ERP or the business suite is offered on HANA database. So they have the flexibility of implementing SAP ERP, that is ECC, with other databases or HANA database also. Similarly with other business suite solutions. So, but when they offered this SAP ERP on HANA database, basically the core application is not changed. The core data model is same, the application is same, the interface is same. But the only thing is underlying database they started supporting for HANA database also. So meaning of that is if you have a customer who is running SAP ERP on Oracle, another customer running same SAP ERP on HANA database, they don't see any difference as far as the business scope and functionality is concerned. They don't see any difference as far as the interface is concerned. The end users will feel the same. Except that, the customer who is implementing SAP ERP and HANA database will have some advantages like they'll get a better performance, better transaction performance, better performance in the analytics, and they also have a reduced data footprint. So at that time, SAP has realized the fact that continuing with applications like SAP ERP for the future or next generation is not going to be that easy because of the complexity involved. So if you look at your ERP application, which was designed way back, knowing the fact that they're going to store the data in traditional disk-based databases. So because see, when we are saying that the core data model, what we have in SAP ERP, it's very complex. The core data model itself is very complex. Based on that, whatever the coding they have written there, that is also very complex. And also they use a lot of techniques over a period of time to improve the performance of the transactions. and even analytics also. Like they used aggregated tables, indices, and all that. So when you have such a complex application, you want to continue with that for all the customer requirements. Even if you want to make a small modification there, a small adoption, it becomes a big undertaking. It becomes a very big project. So you are building complexity on top of existing product. You kept on building that complexity. At some point in time, it will become highly impossible for you to modify or enhance or adopt those applications for the customer requirements. So realizing that fact, SAP has decided to develop a new application, a new product line from scratch. So it's like taking a blank canvas and start developing something new. So instead of continuing with the existing products. So that they've actually started in 2014. And also when they have decided to do that, when they want to start developing a new product line and with a blank canvas, they have intentionally decided that they want to develop these applications only on HANA database platform. Because they know that if they can utilize the capabilities of HANA, they will be able to develop more simplified applications for the next generation. So which you can adopt to the customer's requirements a lot more easily. So actually, in 2014, they started with finance module. They worked on that. They came up with something called simple finance and then simple logistics, a couple of functional areas they worked on. And then 2015, they've introduced this new product called SAP S. Remember, this is not a continuation of any of the existing products. Some of the people are assuming that it's a continuation of SAP ECC, but this is a new product line altogether, which SAP has designed and developed based on HANA database platform from scratch. And when we say it's designed, developed based on HANA database platform, so obviously it doesn't support any other third-party databases. It purely runs on HANA database. So this is the most important thing which you need to understand. SAP S for HANA. Why they named it like that? SAP Business Suite 4. 4 means next generation, 4th generation. For HANA. They say for HANA. That is an application which is designed and developed for HANA database only. So based on the features and functionalities of HANA database only, they build this application. In fact, that is the reason why they're able to come up with more simplified application. The most important thing in SAP S/4HANA, you see, is the simplicity, the simplification. Your core data model is simplified. So based on that, whatever the application code they have written, that is simplified. Ultimately, it all leads to more simplified business processes. So when you have more simplified business processes, the customers, the end users will feel a lot more comfortable working with those business processes or executing those business processes, which is what exactly happened. So the product which was introduced in SAP by SAP in 2015. So there onwards, it kept on evolving. So by the time they've introduced the version 1809 in 2018, they started embedding AI capabilities also. In fact, that's the reason why from there onwards, they started calling it as an intelligent enterprise solution. Okay. So this is a brief history how SAP's journey towards this SAP S/4HANA started and how they build this application. Okay. So we'll be continuing on this discussion furthermore to understand this product in a better way. In the next video, we'll see the comparison between the ECC and S/4HANA when we look at the core data model for a better understanding. When I say simplification, what kind of simplification happened there? So that will be continuing in the next session. So please stay tuned to this series of videos. We'll continue on that. Thank you.